when Marina first said, "Hey, Dean, can you come up and tell some stories?" And you have 10 minutes. And I thought, wow, I don't have 10 minutes worth of stories. And but then I thought, oh, wait a minute. I could tell the story of my entire career in 10 minutes. Yeah, that would kill 10 minutes. So okay, because I know a few people have gone over, I better get on it. So, like she mentioned, it gets good when I was going to school in Berkeley. And a friend of mine, high school friend, was going to school in Berkeley, and another friend happened to wind up there. And we started talking about putting a band together, and she said, this other friend said, "Can I bring my friend? She wants to be a singer." And I said, "Sure." So she brought Martha Davis of the Motels. If you know about the Motels, you know who Martha is. And we started rehearsing. We found a drummer. And our first gig was at this artist commune in San Francisco called Project Artaud. It was this chaotic sort of warehouse space. We played a New Year's Eve show, and I remember standing behind her. I was on the right, as I always am. And she was in front, and she sang "Stand By Me." And it was just instantaneously clear that she was a star. The way she and this is her first gig, the way she commanded the room, every move, it was really uncanny. It was inspiring too. We thought, oh, damn, this is easy with her in front. And they were cool songs. They're really cool songs. The original Motels is nothing like the band that had the hits. It was more like Alice Cooper with a female lead singer and kind of a funky Zeppelin, Americanized sort of Zeppelin, and really abstract songs. Anyway, I came down to LA because the Bay Area is kind of provincial. It's really small scene. And the 60s were over when it was the center of the universe, when I lived there. But that was done. And now, then and now, LA is kind of where it's at. So I came on down and they followed. And by this time, I was living with Martha, and she had 2 kids. She'd had one kid, I think, when she was either 15 or 16, and she had her next daughter when she was 16 or 17. I can't remember. So she had a lot of stories to tell. And we lived together, and they're cool, a lot of stress, but it was cool. So they came down. All our friends came down too. My friends came down. We put a new band together down here. We started playing this strange gigs like Barney's Beanery. We played Barney's. It was the first time they'd had a band play there. And after we played, they said, that's the last time. And we played this place called the Venice Pavilion out in Venice. This kind of outdoors skate parky kind of thing. It's no longer there. So oddball gigs, because we couldn't play the Whiskey or the Starwood because you had to be a hair band. Literally, I'm not kidding. You had to be a hair band. You had to have a record deal, or some hotshot lawyer or manager who could get you a gig. It was really weird, but well, times can be weird, as we all know. So we thought, fuck it, we're going to put on our own show. So we found this hall, this auditorium on La Brea called Troopers Hall. It was where a bunch of vaudevillians, ex-vaudevillians, would have these reviews and fundraisers and whatnot. And we rented it for, $200. And by this time, we'd had a write-up, I guess, in Backdoor Man, and Pooch and Flipside was kind of a fan. And so we had this sort of underground vibe going. And the night of the gig, we put it on with this band called The Dogs from Detroit and a band called The Pop. 200 people showed up, which totally blew our minds. And Rodney, speaking of Rodney, he was there. Rodney Bingenheimer showed up. And I'm pretty sure I saw Kim Fowley, his sort of spectral figure at the back of the hall with his ski park on in the middle of summer, And so that was like, blew our minds, and it also woke up the Starwood and the Whiskey and those clubs these people actually can draw. So we opened for Van Halen at the Whiskey. And we were playing one night at the Starwood. It was a great show. It was packed, and afterwards we went up to the dressing room, and we're hanging out and getting wrecked. and there's kind of a commotion over at the entrance to the back door. To the dressing room, and this short guy walks in, kind of curly hair, and this huge guy behind him, like 6'4" and this wide, and it's Phil Spector, and so the vibe kind of changes. Oh hey, how's it going? And before long, yeah, he's showing us his pistol. Like, oh yeah, Phil. Yeah, hey, I'm Phil. Here's my pistol. Like, we know how that ended. But so we're, it's pretty mad scene back there, and Martha's really wasted, and she was up punching him for some reason, and we're kind of like, oh shit. His bodyguard is called Tiny, of course, and we're like, oh shit, Tiny. Oh, Tiny, don't hurt her. It was cool though. He was cool about it, and we're hanging out. And he says, then we hear him say, "Hey, Martha, can I have a word with you?" And he takes her outside, and they walk outside. And I think that the rest of us, just looked at each other and were like, "Oh, well, that's that. That's the end of the Motels." And sure enough, yeah, and I don't blame her. She went on, started her. In a couple of months, she said, I'm going to do my own thing. And I had come up with the name of the band. Driving up Fairfax, there's the Farmer's Daughter Motel. I'm just driving thinking, what a weird ass name for a, unless you figure, I'm going to get lucky if I spend the night. But if I was thinking, Motels, that's like Motown, Deltones. That's kind of cool. Yeah, how about the Motels? And they liked it. So we became the Motels. Anyway, she wanted the name. And she came over to my apartment, this place on Hollywood Boulevard, and she was taking a bubble bath. And I just remember, you probably had to be there, but we'd both been drinking a while, and I remember her saying, "I want the name," and she slapped the surface of the water, and all these bubbles just went flying. And I just thought, this is the strangest moment. And like I said, you had to be there. But anyway, I gave her the name. I'd lost a mic that was worth $100 of hers, and so I gave her the name for $100, which is, what was I going to do with it? So anyway, at that point I realized, well, shit, I don't want to get in another situation where somebody's going to go off and leave me behind, and I better start writing my own songs. And so I started writing songs. I hadn't written any songs since I was 13. I think I wrote one. We started playing. I found some players. We put a band together, and we got pretty good. We were playing the Troubadour, and I was working for Warner Brothers at the time as a street guy. Going to see bands and listening to tapes and boxes and boxes of tapes. And there were maybe 1,000 tapes, and maybe 5 of them I replied to. One of them was Christopher Cross, as it turns out. And he thanked me later for, "Hey, thanks for the support, man." He did all right. So, so we were playing the Troubadour, and we finished the set, and it's, we got sort of a buzz at that point. And after the show, my boss comes upstairs. She's the head of A&R at Warner Brothers, and she says, "You didn't tell me you were good." And it's like, well, you didn't ask. So anyway, we wound up actually signing a record deal with Warner Brothers, putting out a couple of records. It was kind of not the way I'd wanted it to be, and the record turned out to be, well, it was sort of the peak new wave period, and I was a guitar player. I liked playing heavy, loud rock guitar, and if you recall, at that time, that was like the devil's instrument. It was so frowned upon to and I understand that after 10 minutes, Uriah Heep's 10 minutes guitar solos, and God bless them, the Allman Brothers, like fucking Dwayne Allman on his own. The band leaves the stage, and he's up there for 10 minutes. I get it. Okay, enough of that. But still, so I wound up thinning out the album, and it sounded really wimpy, and we were playing it pogo tempo. And okay, so like in the introduction, it said I wandered the musical wilderness after that for 30, 40, whatever years. But it turns out that a couple years ago, my son plays soccer, and one of the soccer dads owns a small label called Nickel and Dime. And his partner is Peter Hewer, I think that's how you pronounce it, who was a co-founder of Triple X. And most of you know Triple X, like Black Flag and, all the cool bands. And I always wanted to be on a label with the cool bands, but my music's, it's pop, it's not punk. And so, but it turns out Peter was a fan of my band. And so he said, hey, let's re-release your record. So, which was cool because it's really hard to find. I don't know why, you just can't, it's grayed out on Spotify. Like, please God, what did I do? You can hear every other piece of music that's ever been played except for mine. So anyway, and I got the chance to not only be sort of on Triple X, but we also got a chance to remaster it and slow the songs down, and found a way to separate the guitars out and make them sound really badass. And it's like I can die happy now. So you gotta check it out, and you gotta click that stream button so that I can get my 0.00006 cents, so I can put the kid through college. And there's also a new song on it, and I hope I'm not going too far over. And it's of a very political nature. It's a political nature, and that brings me to the point, the Jimmy Kimmel point of. One of the Oasis bros said that musicians should just shut up and play. And that this political commentary, you've got no place talking about politics, just shut up and play. Okay, so I get it. They're British. They don't know what the fuck's going on here. But this is chaos like none of you have ever seen. And I know because I'm probably older than almost everybody here. I've never seen anything like it. And we've probably never seen anything like this in the history of our country. And whether you support it or you're against it, it's chaos now. And it's a roller coaster, and we don't know where it's going to end. So I'm not going to complain or say anything more than that, but just that it's more important than ever for you to vote and to get your friends to think, oh, my vote doesn't matter. Fuck yes, it does. And vote like your life depends on it. And for some people, maybe even in this room, your life does depend on it, which is the weirdest thought. I thought I'd never, ever think that or say that. And in this song that's coming out on this record, it should be released the next week, the tail out of it, the end of it, it says, whatever happens, it's going to be all right. And it is. It's going to be all right. Okay? Thank you.